I think Nikola Jokic has one of the more interesting MVP cases this year because his case is very easy yet very complex at the same time. We are now at that point in the season where we can finally start talking about the MVP and who's actually going to win it. And for a majority of the season, there have been two legitimate candidates that I've been going back and forth with. One is, of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I actually predicted to win the MVP at the beginning of the season. But the other guy is Nikola Jokic, which does not surprise me because it seems like every single season this man has been in the conversation. And it's not like he's just a name to throw in there. He has a very valid reason to be in the conversation. But yet, despite everything that Jokic has done this year, it might still not be enough for him to win the MVP. Now, if you were to ask me, Spex, why should Nikola Jokic win the MVP this season? That would not be a very hard case to make. At the time recording this video, he's averaging about 30 points per game, 13 rebounds, and almost 10 assists. Mind you, he is top 3 in scoring, he's top 3 in rebounds, and he's number 2 in assists. Also, just for shits and giggles, he's currently averaging about 2.4 stocks per game. And not only that, but he is shooting the ball pretty efficiently. He has a field goal percentage of 56% while shooting 47.1% from 3, which is top 10 in the NBA right now. Oh, and my bad, y'all. I almost forgot to mention he has a 65% true shooting percentage. Like, I could keep going. This man Jokic has every single statistic that could give him the MVP. And it's not just his personal success, but also the team as a whole is doing a lot better compared to how they were doing at the beginning of the year. Currently, Denver is standing at the 4th seed, but the Western Conference is in a very interesting spot. It's in a spot where Denver is only 2 games away from jumping up from 4 to number 2. Now, I doubt they'll get the 1 seed. I think OKC is going to have that on lock for the rest of the season. But it's not like Denver is a lower seed this year. They're one of the better teams in the Western Conference, which I knew was going to happen. Let's also keep in mind that this would actually be statistically Jokic's best season, which I've said in multiple videos. Every time I say Jokic had a better season, it's just something that keeps being said. Like, I don't know when Nikola Jokic's peak is going to be done. This man is continuing to get better year after year. I mean, I personally feel like I'm kind of glossing over the fact that this is the first time in his career he's averaging 30 points per game. If he keeps the status quo, this would be the first time he's ever done this. His best scoring season was in 2021, where he averaged about 27 points per game. Yet 3 years later, he is making a jump like this. It's something that we don't usually see from superstars of Jokic's caliber. Also, his three-point shooting has dramatically increased. This is a guy who's taken about 4 threes per game and shooting about 47% from 3, which is about an 11% increase from last season. Yet he is shooting the most threes per game that he's ever shot before at, again, 4.4 threes per game. Everything is going right for Jokic and this Denver team, but there is a reason why I say his MVP case isn't as easy as it might seem. If you guys remember, about 2 weeks ago, I made a video about the MVP race as of that time, and there were 3 guys I talked about in the video, but of course there were only 2 guys I cared about, Shai and Jokic. Now, Shai's MVP case, it's a good one, don't get me wrong. In fact, I think it's good enough for him to win, but comparing his to Jokic, they're both pretty. The only difference is that OKC is a better team, but Shai also has really good stats, but I just think Jokic has the edge when it comes to stats. And sure, Shai has the edge when it comes to team, but those two things, they go hand in hand. So when it comes to who has the better case, I think they're both pretty similar. But it's not up to these two on who wins the MVP. It is up to the media, it's up to the voters. And that's where this whole thing gets very interesting, because it's not just about who deserves the MVP, it's about narratives. It is about making history, because Nikola Jokic has the opportunity to make history this year. So far in Nikola Jokic's career, he's won the MVP award 3 times. Once in 2020, then in 2021, then last season, the 2023-2024 season. So of course, if he was to win it this season, that would be his 4th MVP. And currently, there are only 5 people to have ever won 4 or more MVPs. Now, I talked about this in the last video, and these are all players that we can agree are top 10, some top 5 of all time. But the question is, does Jokic deserve to be in that mix of players? I also want to remind you guys that if he is to win it this year, then he's won that amount of MVPs in a span of 5 years. Now, let me give you some context on how impressive that is. Michael Jordan, the guy who is considered to be the greatest of all time by most people. This is a man that won his first MVP in 1988 and he won his 4th in 1996, which is an 8-year gap. Funny enough, another guy on the list is Wilt Chamberlain, someone who has won exactly 4 MVPs. And it also took him 8 years to win 4 MVPs spanning from 1960 to 1968. But okay, what about a guy from this era? Like for say LeBron, who has also won exactly 4 MVPs. Well, he won 4 MVPs in a span from 2009 to 2013. The only season he missed was the 2011 season. So in that case, it is very similar to Jokic. I mean, Jokic could literally do the exact same thing this season if he wins. So the question is history going to allow Jokic to do exactly what LeBron did? Because on paper, this is a very scary comparison to look at. But unfortunately, there's a lot more that we have to look at. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys are enjoying the video so far, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel by the end of the year, so if you guys want to be a part of history, then subscribe to the channel. If you guys enjoy raw, unfiltered NBA content 3 times a week, then this is the perfect channel for you. Also, I guess a little insider news is that I have my next video essay currently in the works right now. And I don't want to say too much because I don't like, talking about this stuff when it's not done yet, but just know it's going to be about my GOAT, LeGoat James. Okay, seriously though, all jokes aside, it is a video essay about LeBron that's going to be coming in the next couple weeks. Now with all that being said, let's hop right back into the video. I honestly believe that the voters are not going to vote for Nikola Jokic just purely off of voter fatigue. I think it's unfair, and believe me when I say, if it was up to me and I'm looking at this from an objective standpoint, I'm giving this to Jokic, but I think we're kind of in a Joel Embiid situation, if this makes sense. Because the season that Joel Embiid won the MVP, he had a great season, don't get me wrong, but I'm still one of the guys that was saying that Jokic should have won the award that season. And this season, I don't know if they're going to give it to him, because if Jokic was to win the NBA MVP award, then they're basically saying they think he is a top 10 player all time. Now, if we were to discuss whether or not Nikola Jokic is a top 10 player all time, that is a great debate that we could have. It's a long and in-depth conversation, but in my personal opinion, I don't know if he is. See, I'm kind of old school, so me personally, I believe the more championships you have, the more higher you are on all-time list. And unfortunately, Nikola Jokic only has 1 championship. And that 1 championship was considered to be boring by a lot of people. I mean, history's gonna go back and they're gonna see, oh, they played an 8 seed Miami Heat team. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's Miami's fault that they were put in that position. They had a great season, but there were a lot of reasons why they advanced to the finals. But again, I don't think history's gonna care about that. They're gonna see that he not only played an 8 seeded team, but when they go back to his other MVPs, they're gonna find multiple reasons on why he should have won them. Oh, this guy got injured, oh, and that's why he shouldn't have won it. I mean, the amount of times that Embiid had gotten injured and couldn't even win the award, it's very surprising. But if I'm being real, I feel like with any championship or award or any situation in sports, there is some what if that you could make. And I think it is very unfair to pin that on Jokic. But again, if Jokic is to win the MVP this year, then he's going to end up with 4 in his career, maybe more. And if that is the case, then either A, people are cool with him being a top 10 player, or B, the way we kind of perceive the MVP award is going to be changed drastically. I remember in the last video, I made a point where I talked about Steve Nash for a little bit and how people might compare him and Jokic. Well, someone actually put a comment under my video about that, and they actually made a very good point, basically saying that people had second thoughts about Nash because of his stats. But Jokic obviously does not have a problem when it comes to his stats. Overall, my point that I'm trying to make is that Jokic winning the MVP, in my opinion, is personally fine. I do think he has a very legitimate case this year, and if they were to announce that he won the award, I wouldn't be surprised. Would it be kind of boring because it's his 4th one in 5 years? Yes. But if someone is to make history like the way Jokic has been doing it, I think he's very deserving of it. If there's a player from this decade to win 4 MVPs in 5 years, I think Jokic is that guy. Now, luckily for us, we still do have a little bit of time until that conversation has to be brought back up again. But I'm going to go on record right now and say that I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander winning just because of narrative. But if Jokic was to win the award, then I would not be surprised.